Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. Today I want to start the week by talking about the riots happening in England, and I've got a kind of a different view than you might expect on this. So, this reminds me of a scenario that happened in Germany. It was like the 90s or the 2000s, and then it was a similar kind of thing where there was migrants, and then the kids came out to firebomb this place that they were staying at, this complex. And in that situation, their parents came out with lemonade and stuff. And the difference between that and what's happening in England right now is that what happened in Germany back then had more community support, whereas all the institutions and stuff are amassed against the English people at this time. So let's just talk about what happened. I'm going to give you a archived New York Times article. Is the first reference below, and that's going to be about the actual knife attack that caused the riots. And then about the riots, I put three different references: reference 2, 3, and 4, which I chose archived New York Times, Al Jazeera, and BBC, so you could kind of get a smattering of what's going on if you're interested in researching this more. But basically, what happened is on July 28th of 2024. There was a stabbing, which ended up leading to the riots. So this is the first New York Times article. I'm just going to read you a little bit out of it and see we can see what happened. It was one of the first days of a summer break, and a group of young girls was dancing to Taylor Swift songs in a studio on a quiet street in Southport in northwest England. As the class, which also included yoga and bracelet making, was drawing to an end on Monday morning, an attacker walked in and rampaged through the room with a knife, stabbing the children and two adults. Two girls, BB King, 6, and Elise Stancombe, 7, died of their injuries on Monday, the Merseyside police said in a statement, while a third 9-year-old, Alice Dasilva Aguiar, died in the hospital early Tuesday. 8 other children were injured, five of whom remain in critical condition in the hospital, along with 2 adults who had tried to protect them, the police said. And here's a picture of the 3 young girls, that died. It's in one of the articles below. So this is the incident that started the rioting, right? And there was some claims by like Tommy Robinson and Andrew Tate that this guy was somebody fresh off the boat, we'll say, right? And it turns out that he wasn't. He was the children of immigrants who shouldn't, or not English. They should not be there. But he's not born abroad, and his ties to Islam are unclear, but not obvious, we'll say. So kind of what they say about this, the rioting, is they say, hey, it's based on a false premise. These people were tricked and lied to. And that's completely false, because there's still a bunch of Englishmen who were furious that some English girls died by some people who were not English. And then they would counter that by saying, well, he was probably an English citizen, this 17-year-old boy who did this, he's not. But legally, technically he is, but he's just not, right? So then basically these riots start, and there's a lot of different targets. I'm going to read you just a couple samples of the targets so you can see what kind of stuff is going on, okay? On Sunday, rioters set upon a hotel that was housing asylum seekers in the town of Rotherham in northern England, breaking windows before surging inside as the police struggled to control them. No guests were injured in the melee, the police said. Now, when I heard the reporting on this story, they said that it was a hotel housing asylum seekers and that the rioters locked the doors and then set the place on fire. And that's far different than what this article says, that they broke windows and then surged inside. No guests were injured in the melee. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Another incident. In Middlesbrough, a group of rioters, some masked, hurled bottles and rocks at officers. Cars were set on fire, and at least 9 people were arrested. On Saturday, a library and a food bank were set ablaze in Liverpool as groups damaged and looted businesses, and in Hull, fires were set and storefronts smashed in the city center. Dozens of police officers were injured, including some who required trips to the hospital. Okay, so when I look at this, I'm thinking about what's actually going on, and I'm just going to guess that when you look at these situations, like you say, okay, a food bank was hit. Okay, well, what was the food bank doing? Probably distributing food to illegal immigrants. I'm just going to guess, right? And it says storefronts were set on fire, were smashed in the city center, Okay, I'm going to guess whose storefronts those are. Those aren't just random storefronts. If I could guess, looted businesses, not just random businesses. I don't know the story about the library. and the cars are probably a little random, cars set on fire. But I'm guessing that this is targeting of migrants, of the illegal immigrants or even legal immigrants. I mean, for goodness sake, it's England for the English. So now let me give you my take on this. Okay. In my country, in the United States, we had these Black Lives Matter, riots 4 years ago. And it was pretty insane to me when I'm looking at it from, like, I like to put myself in your shoes, and say you're a Black Lives Matter rioter, and I'm in your shoes and I'm like, okay, so you got this systematically racist system and all these white people with systematic power are systematically being racist against black people. They're murdering in the streets. The police are the guns doing this, And so, like, I'm furious as a black man in America. And so I'm going to go out and burn down black businesses? I'm going to loot Target. That's no justice, racial justice. None of it makes any sense what they're doing. Why don't you go to wherever the source of your perceived systematic racism is in the United States? I have no idea because it's pretty not coherent, the ideology there. But why aren't you attacking the source of that perceived injustice? Like the Wendy's. It's not the Wendy's. I just promise it's not that one Wendy's, So anyways, and I know the guy got killed out in front of the Wendy's, but the Wendy's didn't do it, I promise you. So anyways, and then now in England, what you've got is you've got them attacking migrants and stuff. And what happens because of this? So what happens is over 1,000 people were arrested. Okay, fine, whatever. 4, maybe 5 countries said they're warning against flying to certain regions in England, right? So like from that's your best argument for what the English are doing. And you can say, wow, if we make it uninhabitable for these people, they won't want to come. And in fact, they'll leave. And that's factual. I mean, if you incrementally did make it terrible enough, nobody would come to your country, No illegal immigrants would come to your country if they were treated that poorly, if you could consistently do that. But here's my insight on this, and it's a little bit different, okay? Just like when I was talking about the Black Lives Matter, who's your source of the systematic racism? Well, it's not really there, so that doesn't make sense. But in England, what's the problem in England? Is the problem these guys coming over on boats and then raping and macheting people? Let me ask you this. If you and your family group and close group of friends, whoever you're close with, if you all got the offer, you all get $10 million cash and you all move to China and you're going to get your own little tiny area of China and you're going to make your little European or whatever you are, your European little hub. You don't even got to learn Chinese. And you just live off that 10 mil for the rest of your life. Each, you, me, my wife, my kid, everybody gets $10 million. Would you do it? And the answer is yes, because honestly, I'll never see $10 million in my life. Chances are pretty high, right? Most people watching, you're in that boat. If you aren't in that boat, then congratulations to you. And subscribe star link below. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kind of. Anyways, so what I'm saying though is that I don't blame economic migrants because these people are getting paid by NGOs and stuff. They're coming up with these Nikes and Adidas and iPhones and gold chains and stuff like that. They didn't acquire those in their village in Africa, right? Just, I'm talking about the African people. Anyways, so I'm not really blaming them as much. They're just doing what they do, The problem is in England, it's the same problem in the United States. It's the politicians. It's the people with the gun coming to the door to arrest the person who said England is for the English. Right? There's so many in the United States. I've got video after video. In the United States, it's the Border Patrol. In the United States, it's the Secret Service. There's so many bad guys involved in the system, and England has their own system, and it's different than ours, and it's also terrible, and in some ways a little more terrifying than ours if you look at the crazy laws they do. But what I'm saying is they're not targeting the correct people. Now, I'm not calling for violence here. What I'm saying is, imagine you had a scenario, like let's take this back to the United States. Let's say AIPAC representative comes to some Republican senator and says, hey, I got this deal for your constituency. We can do this. We can build this there. I got this trip for you to Israel. I also got this. Okay, and I just need you to vote on this bill in one way that betrays the United States of America, right? Now imagine that senator thinks about it and says, okay, let's see. If I do this, I'm going to have to hire 24-hour armed security for 6 months. Probably still my car's going to blow up at some point. I'm not sure if it's going to be Mina or the wife. So, I mean, hopefully it was me. Hopefully, because I don't want anything to happen to the wife. But like, imagine the danger of now, normally you wouldn't have to talk like this because normally you would have a justice system. You would go sit there and watch football or sports ball, whatever you do. I don't know. And so some guy with a badge would go and do all this thing, would bring justice, would stop traitors, would do this. We don't live in that kind of system, right? And so basically the penalty for betraying your country has become nil. I mean, they used to tar and feather people for just a little bit, bring them out in the streets. You know what I'm talking about? Sounds wonderful. But you don't live in a system where there's a justice system who will do the things, who will bring in the bad guys, who will stop people in Congress from betraying the United States of America, stop the president from betraying the United States of America, which is Congress's job to prevent that, of course. And not living in that world, and you're like, I want to go out and enact change, like the English, okay? They're not targeting the right people. Unless your goal, English people, is to create so much devastation among immigrant communities that they literally start fleeing the country and less come to your country. Because you could just go to Germany, you could just go to France, you go to Spain, or just wherever else, not Hungary. If that's your goal, good luck, because that's going to take a lot of concerted activity by a lot of people, while the bad people in your country, the police, the judges, the politicians, are still locking up people. Do you have unlimited reserves of patriots in your country? Doubtful, because patriotism hard to find, And so anyways, I'm just saying that, in my opinion, they're exerting their effort in an unproductive way. There would have to be so much effort towards making it inhospitable for the immigrants that you would need such a large percentage of the population to support you. If you have a much smaller percentage of the population, it would be intelligent or strategical. It would be strategical that they exerted those efforts towards the people who put the policies in place that brought the illegal immigrants there. That's my take on this. And I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. I heard about this through a comment. I forget who dropped the comment. Appreciate you. And then I went and looked it up, and as soon as the story popped up, I got a smile on my face. And then as I researched it, I realized that I feel like there's some level of futility in the way that it's being carried out. But that's just my opinion. I'm interested in hearing what you've got. So on Wednesday, I'm going to do an episode on unions. Unions aren't that fun, honestly. It's not that exciting of a topic, but I think I have some insights on that I've never had before. And Victor kind of had to agree with me when I was pitching this idea to him. And so I think it's valuable if you're interested in hearing that. On Thursday, I've got a great episode on the bombing of Dresden. I mean, it's a horrific event, but you just won't believe the stuff that they just admit openly on mainstream news articles. Anyways, that's what I got for you for the rest of the week, and hope to see you there.